I'm on time in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Not everybody can go out of town like y'all and do the real estate thing. But it's blessed to be here. I'm blessed to be here, out here trying to help folks as much as possible. So
Absolutely.
forgive me for running late, but we're trying to change that narrative of CP time.
Oh man,
Yeah.
don't start now.
Yeah, you're not starting off on
Too
good
early.
tip, man. Come on.
We're trying to change that narrative. Did we get started with the show? We
Nah,
get started?
you up.
Yeah,
All right.
Just yourself.
yeah.
So,
But we have our host, our guest host here.
Oh well, he ain't a guest. He's darn there.
He need to introduce himself. Let's go.
What's up, man? What's going on, everybody? It's me, Dion Westbrook, and I'm just happy to be here. I think this is gonna be a great topic. We're gonna talk about some huge points that I think we need to address about black men in the community. So
Yeah.
I'm ready, thankful. Let's get it.
Before we get started, Clinton, I just want to make sure if you noticed when Dion first doing the show, he was like, "Hi, I'm Dion Westbrook," and now he's like, "Hi, my name."
With the shades and stuff.
Talking about.
You know what I'm saying?
Hit me up there.
Trying to be like y'all when I grow up.
D-Love, yeah, D-Love.
Yeah.
We gotta have a good time, man. That's all.
So the topic of today is we're going to talk about black men and the career choices that we make, and not only the career choices but the ownership in certain industries. If you're on top of social media like us three gentlemen are, we're constantly sending each other clips all the time on certain empowering information and motivational clips. And one of the clips that we ran into was a man talking about how a group of women in all different races were sitting at the table talking about, well, a white woman says that, well, my man runs the government. So therefore, if you need anything, you need to go through the government first. Then a Hispanic woman says, well, my man runs a construction company. If you need anything built, you have to go through them. The Indian says, well, if you need gas, my man owns the gas stations. You need to go through them. The Chinese said, well, if you need help with manufacturing, you have to go through them. Filipino, nursing, Arab, Arabic, what was it? It was tech, and so on and so on. And then it finally got to the black woman, and it was no answer of what industries we own today. So as three brothers that, are in our careers and been involved in real estate and things of that nature, several of them own businesses, we want to have the conversation about how can we change that narrative within the community to make sure that we get some ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There is an industry where, I don't know, that could be, the waste management industry. I don't know, that could be real estate. I mean, I'm not here to say what it should be. I'm just here to say it should be something. Because as we discussed, the two most important decisions you make in your life are the career you choose and the person you marry.
Right.
Having the right family. And if you're a man who doesn't feel that you can hold up your family because you don't have a support group, a community that can help you get into a certain industry, then, you may feel like you're less than a man because you cannot support your family like you want to. So we're going to start the conversation today. If you're watching in on Facebook or however you're watching us, feel free to put live.
Everything.
Put your comments in. We'll read your comments because we want to make sure we can get to it. But, as we have this conversation, what do you guys think about the fact that, just what are your thoughts about the fact that as black men, we don't have an industry that we own?
You know what? And I'll start off with that. I watched the video, I watched most of it, but then I ran to the comments, like we all do.
Yeah.
Social media.
Yeah.
Did you get some popcorn before you started reading?
Right. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause I want to hear what the people are saying, but and I saw some things because I one of the things that I saw consistently popping up in the comments was sports, entertainment, and music, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or education. Sport, entertainment, and music, and then sports, entertainment, and education. And then it kind of made me think a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, that is definitely saying that we don't own anything. Yeah, we do. But is it sustainable, right? And that's the main thing that I had to ask myself. Yes, we do own when it comes to sports, entertainment, and levels of education. And then we have also music. you find that yes, our community, we kind of dominate in that, but is it sustainable for our community? And that's kind of like the main question that I had to ask. You know, it's not like we don't own anything or we don't own the rights to certain things or we don't dominate in certain industries. It's just whether or not we see it as something that's going to build generational wealth or sustainable or something that is going to stand the test of time. You know, because when you look at when he said is it Arabs or Indians? He said Arabs own oil, and they have stood the test of time. I mean, their wealth, they're so rich that we don't even know how much they're worth, right? They just spend money like nothing, you know. So I mean, that's kind of like, and they've built a whole nation. That's one of the most advanced nations in the world based upon the money, and they are not scared of taking any risk. And that's coming from the new generation that's inheriting all this wealth that's been inherited based upon oil, right? But when he asked the question, I like the fact that he went on a global scale. You know, like he's looking at not just the demographic of Black Americans, he's looking at all across the nation,
Right.
I mean, across the world. And and when you look at the trend, even in the countries that represent us, it's kind of like the same thing. See that same trend. We don't really it's not like we don't own it, we don't control it.
Yeah.
Right? We don't control it. We dominate in it, but it's that we don't have control of it, right? So, and that's where the sustainability comes in, because you'll find that when we compare it to, say, the Jewish community, they own a lot of the banks and the banking system. At the same time, too, it's kind of like they control it. You know, they're the ones loaning the money. You know, they're the ones who own a lot of the things we think we own, right? And that's kind of like something that I've been saying for a while. It's and I'm glad to see that the veil is kind of being lifted from a lot of people, because now we're starting to really, really think, you know, because I one of the things that I tell people that I was watching the Breakfast Club today, and there was interviewing this politician, and the politician was asking, well, who's running the country right now that Biden stepped down and Kamala's running for vice president? I mean, for president, right? Who's really running the country? And he was like, yeah, really ask who's running the country. But when people take it on a political stance, it's like, yeah, well, we're trying to create some type of conspiracy. But at the same time, too, we really got to ask, is really the people who we see or we elect really running the country, right? You know, it's kind of like in this very situation, you got to ask yourself, is the president really running the country, or the country is self-sustainable on its own because there's a group in the background, or you know, running the country, and so because it's really true, you know, that's the question, right? You know, so when we lift the veil, and now all I'm saying is, like, when we really start thinking about how things are structured and how things are being, and when we look at the future and where we're at, then we start asking these major questions, because I mean, it has to. That's the only way we can really start changing things, is by challenging the norm, right, or the things that we've been programmed to think, right. So that's kind of what I would start off by saying.
Yeah, and for me, you know, just kind of going back to the topics of what you were saying about the comments where everybody's bringing up entertainment and all these different fields, but at the end of the day, are we really owning?
Right.
Like you said, we don't own those teams. There's a few teams and things that us as Black people may own, but it's very few, to the point where, you know what I mean, you're better off saying we don't really pretty much own anything like that at all. We might dominate as far as being excelling and being the best at these different fields, but do we really own them? And so that's where we need to definitely start to kick in. And even it doesn't even have to be on that big of a level. It could be, like you said, a department store, you know, a gas station. It could be something that's an everyday necessity that we need, that we go spend billions of dollars on every day.
Well, I think you hit on it, because when you talk about the entertainment industry, and I'll include sports into that, it's the faces you see are primarily Black in the top 3 biggest sports in the United States, which is basketball, baseball,
and
football.
Yeah.
Football is number 1.
Yeah.
I think football is like 70% Black. Basketball is about 75.
Right.
And baseball is, you have, you know, a lot of, you
Right.
know, Latinos that are in there.
Right. And then the ownership. The ownership is 90%.
But you look at
That's what I'm saying.
but you look at the people
Ownership
that
is
have
small. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we got a couple here and there.
Right.
But you look
it's
at the
not what it should
ownership,
be.
right? Like Def Jam, for
Right.
years, it wasn't ran by a black man.
Right.
You know, and you think of,
Russell Simmons as the face of it. Though.
I mean, was it CBS Records?
Mm-hmm.
You know, all the big record companies that had black artists.
Right.
A lot of times they weren't ran by black people, and so therefore they weren't hiring the people behind the scenes to help with the black people. You may have one black,
Right.
A&R person, artist and development person,
Right.
but that was just for the black division. It wasn't for the whole,
Right.
record label.
Right.
And so when I think about it, I'm starting to think about what industries are out there that we're not sure that are owned by a certain group, but maybe we should take a look at it and see if it may be some good opportunities. One of them is and we talked about this a couple of years ago when we had this person on here. But one of them is the green industry.
The green.
The green industry. So
Agricultural? Something
huh?
Like that? You mean like
Like
agricultural? Like farming? Something?
no, not agricultural, but like
Not like green.
shoot,
Oh, like you talking about
Sustainable.
energy efficiency?
sustainable energy.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
like, wait, the green?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not planning in
That
agriculture.
could mean so many things, man. Like a green.
Not George Washington
I
Carver.
got you. I'm with you now.
Where we going with this, William?
We just start planting.
Go green. I got you. Okay. I got you.
I think we run that industry somewhat. But
Right.
anyways, with sustainable, sustainable energy, with solar panels
Right.
and energy efficient cars. Like
Right.
a lot of these cars, like in the next 20 years, you're not going to see too many gas stations. You're going
Right.
to see more electric charging stations,
Right.
EV charging stations.
Right.
Who's building those?
Right.
Who's fixing those?
Right.
Who's selling those?
Right.
Who's putting up the solar panels and although there's a lot of people that dominate the industry right now, there's still a lot of opportunity.
Yeah,
in there.
there is a huge amount.
There's so much more that hasn't happened yet.
Right.
So it's just an idea. But do you guys have any thoughts of what industries we can do? Real estate. We can talk about real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, man. And the reason why I'd say it's a tough one because, we've kept a level of optimism about. It's not like something in our community we don't see it because we are front and center to it. We have like a front seat to see what's happening and and for years and years and years and years, I think we have been seeing it. But at the same time, too, what's a popular narrative out there has been overshadowing what we have been saying because a lot of people are now opening their eyes because of George Floyd to police brutality, and I'm like, whoa, this has been happening since what in the 90s when so it's kind of like
1890s,
right,
1790s.
I think you go a little bit further back.
right. We've been actually saying this was happening.
Yeah.
We're seeing it,
Yeah.
but and that's where I think the problem is basically is number one is that we have the abilities, we have the knowledge, we have the education, we have the work ethic, everything that people think that we the narrative out there that says that we don't have it, we have it in our community, right? I think the barriers to entry come because of how the whole system is set up. Right, and because we have to, because think about it like this: LeBron James and Bronny. Everybody was up in arms when he actually had Bronny join the Lakers. And now I would say, I'll be honest, Bronny's not ready for being a pro. Right, we all know this, but at the same time, I am glad to see, and I was happy to see that this very thing that's been happening for years that we don't see behind the scenes among the owners, right? Where because we look at the Spanos family, that whole inheritance was a tragedy for the Chargers. You know, you know what I'm saying? I'm being honest with you. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Raiders too.
Right.
Raiders too.
Right.
Look,
You know,
we got some championships. Don't put us up in there.
and
Man.
San Diego ended up losing a whole. I mean, but at the same time too, it's kind of like, hey, let's move to LA. I'm like, okay, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you look at that, and you're like, okay, well, what are they inherited something and they were able to do whatever they wanted.
Well, nepotism has been happening for
It's
years.
been happening for years, from colleges to actually to businesses to Fortune 500 companies. A lot of the kids have inherited their parents because they hired the people below them to actually run the company while they can maintain the ownership. So when it's happening on a level where it's more where people can see it, now it's kind of like, oh, well, why is Bronny? And no, that's something a father would do that, and I expect a father to do that, right?
But it's crazy how when it's reversed and people see somebody else that don't look like them do it, then it's a problem. Like, wait a minute, you should be able to do that.
Right? Yeah,
like,
exactly.
On,
you know, but you know, if you look at all the families, the Waltons, come on, man. Like, are they really able to build something from the ground up? You know, so even Donald Trump. I mean, let's not play around. You know, so when we look at these things, and now where the veil, as I said, the veil's being removed, and the main, I know you asked the question, is that whether or not where in terms we can actually
what
invest,
industries,
what industries and stuff like that. I think it always comes back to where we have to still go back and ask for permission.
Permission from who?
From
church.
Church.
Yeah, from church. Well, not church, but to also the banks.
I could not see.
Right.
Well,
right.
I think,
and who owns the banks? Right.
Well, I think the narrative could be out there is that is the industry that we do kind of run. Is the church industry.
We do run the church. You know what? I would still say, you know, what? we have a huge part of it. I would say the black church.
Yeah,
let's say the black church. The black church,
the top.
Because I mean, you have. Like when you look at really the evangelicals, right, and a whole en masse, you'll find that the mega churches don't look like. There's some who look. The majority of them look like us, right? So, but at the same time too, I would say
a couple of them.
But we have
what neighborhood you are.
Pretty much. Yeah, but we have been able to dominate
17
and duplicate that business model of the church in our communities and make it very successful, right? It's for me, it's kind of like this now. Now, I would say it's hard to say you can run the church like a business and loan money and all that because there's so much regulations, right? And then you have so many eyes upon you, like, you know.
Tax-free dollars, though.
Yeah, but still, you know, it's like you can't really, you're still limited in what you can do.
Well, I think part of the problem, too, is we're not going. We're not going like we used to.
You might as well chime in. Well, it is.
Shout out to LaShawn. Shout out to Nina. Thank you for watching.
Yes.
So... You know,
I kind of want to chime in on that too because, and also, you know, people on live were saying too, like part of the reasons for us not getting to the point where we own a lot of these businesses because it's not being taught to us. You know what I mean? Like it's not being passed down from generation, the importance of owning businesses, learning about finances, learning about trades. You know, it's not being taught in schools. That's for anybody, not just our people, but for anybody. You know, it's not being taught in the schools the importance of being able to do these things, having a trade, understanding how taxes work, how credit works, how finances work, how to invest. So all these different things that could really benefit everybody, not just our community, are not put in place. And, you know, I feel like we have all the tools in the world to do it. A kid can get online and learn how to play a game and be the best player in the world, but we don't want to make them sit down and learn how to invest and, you know, learn about stocks and stuff like that when they totally have the capability to, you know, to learn these things at a young age.
Well, I will say, let's not forget, though, and I'm glad you mentioned it earlier about George Floyd, that a lot of the reasons why we don't own the industries that we could is because a lot of it was systematically displaced from owning any industries.
Right.
And so one of the things I want to bring up is when it comes to I mentioned construction, and that was an industry that black people dominated for most of their time in the United States. I mean, you think about who built the White House.
Right.
You think about who built, these plantations and things of that nature. We definitely, we were the ones who built all that.
Yeah, we were the ones who built America.
Right.
So let's not even play. I mean, it's like I ain't going. I'm too old for this, man. So I mean, I'm not going to skip around. We built it, So at the end of the day, I mean, the skill when it comes to labor and understanding how to set up systems and work hard to get where you want, that was instilled in us from the beginning, right? Now it was prevented, right? There was a true laws.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because systematically, so in the early 1900s, they created this thing called the Davis-Bacon Act,
right?
Which means that when you worked on like a government building or something,
right,
then you have to pay equal wages to everybody,
right?
And so then if you had a choice on who you're going to hire, I want to hire someone that looks like me or someone who doesn't look. I want to hire someone that looks like me. So that's a lot of that displaced black people from getting construction jobs.
Right.
Although we were the best and we probably charged the cheapest.
Right.
When they said all things being equal, you got to pay everyone the same.
Right.
Then we weren't chosen.
Yeah, obviously, and it's been happening now. And that's where we come today, where everybody's against the DI and all this stuff. We talk about that, and that's why for right now, I mean. We have to actually embrace some of these things that are happening, where we have to level out the playing field. Because, I mean, I just do not believe, for years and years and years, we have been seeing these opportunities coming by and seeing we never ever, we decide, okay, well, we're not going to take advantage of it. Like, we just don't want to. Or the narrative out there that we're not smart enough, we don't work hard enough, we spend too much money, all the narratives out there, right? But when you really dig deeper and you look at the data, right, it's a system that's in place where, number one, we can't spend money we don't have. If we live in the projects, we live in poverty, it's going to be hard for you to actually be able to, and people, oh, well, there's a lot of people who lived in poverty, and yeah, but a lot of people didn't have segregation, right? There wasn't laws that made it like the norm to not give the same opportunity or same wages. Because if there's a law out there that's saying, okay, well, you don't have to pay this person this amount of money, and then you look at the economics of things, right? And then when you look at economics and you look at, okay, there's a law, it supports the mentality towards, okay, well, we don't have to treat this person equal, right? So,
but now that we know what we know now,
right?
Now that it's 2024,
right?
Close to 2025, it's crazy. What can we do now?
Well, I mean, we've been doing it. I mean, I think it's we tend to not give ourselves too much grace. I mean, I give especially when I say the trajectory based upon when I look at. Because I do real estate, and I can only speak for real estate. The last law that was passed is the Equal Credit Opportunity Act in 1977, right? I mean, there's no need for us to pass laws to make things equal if they were equal, right? So and that's what I tell people is like, why did we have to pass a law to make it equal if it was always equal, if there was equal access, right? So when I look at that, 1977 was the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. Right, so that means that things only really started becoming heavily regulated and things started being taken with a mentality of not treating somebody equal, started being pushed out in 1977. And I was born in 1977.
What?
Right? So, I mean, hey, you know what I'm saying? Say, black don't crack unless you do what? You know what I'm saying? Right, but at the same time, too, when I look at that and I look at the trajectory of where we started at and what we had to experience and where we going to and where we've been, we are on a great track. I mean, for me, and I'm not trying to say, hey, we shouldn't be doing better. I'm just saying based upon the things and that's the scary part about it, is that we have consistently been overcoming these barriers, right? And the barrier, and now it's kind of like we have multimillionaires and billionaires who came out of that situation.
Well, you think about this comment LaShawn made, saying opportunities come, but then the shenanigans follow, and we give up Give up check.
Yeah. So they're saying that we give up.
Oh, we give up, and you got to keep going.
Right.
Yeah, so when
Okay.
basically, like, as you said, when the systems start to kick in,
Right.
people give up. They don't want to band together as powers and numbers.
Right.
Power and numbers.
Right.
And so I think that's one of the things we could do in our community too, is learn how to start. If we don't have enough on our own,
Right.
we need to start working with each other to buy business together. But
Right.
obviously, again, you got to be able to work with people you can trust. Like, we can't beat ourselves up and start working with people, and people start getting greedy and shady, which unfortunately
Right.
we see that in our community, where people don't want to work with each other. They want everything for themselves.
Yeah.
And other communities, it's not always like that. They believe in helping each other. You get to one level and then branching out and then buying more and then branching out. And for us, you know, we know we're in the real estate, so we know
Right.
how it is working with your own people. Sometimes they want to give you the information. I don't want you to know
Right, yeah, I'm saying.
but they'll give it to
Right.
somebody else real quick
Right.
and not think
I'm
twice
trying
about
to
it.
help you
Yeah,
get a house.
exactly.
So just keep in mind that we
I
just
want
came
you all in my
we
business.
we just came back from conference, right? From the NAREB conference, and there was the big
Y'all
push.
just came back.
Yeah, we just came back. But there was a big push right now by the USDA Bank, right? Where they made this big apology, and I only heard about it at a conference. So whenever they make these apologies, they don't make it broadcasted. They make it specifically to the demographics who were being affected, right? So I mean, the USDA Bank made this big apology that they were actually not given equal opportunities to black farmers for loans. Right, and some of the farmers actually spoke about some of the things that they had to go through. Because remember, farming is more of a Midwest, more southern,
Right.
And then on top of that, the people who used to give these USDA loans were like the small town banks and stuff like that. They used to discriminate against black farmers, right? So they discovered that just recently, and I'm like, I mean, I don't think they discovered it. It's just that somebody exposed it,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So I mean, that's how everybody
to light
discovers
now.
something right now.
Wait a minute, we're not doing it right.
Right. Oh, we just discovered it. You know what I'm saying? Just like Christopher Columbus discovered everything. Right.
I found it. There just so happened to be people here.
Right. Right.
When did you get here?
But anyway, back to the top. But at the same time, too, I look at it like this, man. It's like the opportunities. I mean, when we look at it and we say, okay, well, we need a balance to get. I tell people it's like this: we can get our spending power. It's so big; it's in the trillions of dollars, right?
Right.
And
It's almost $2 trillion. Now,
$2
right?
trillion. That's our spending power in the black community. We can get a lot what we want, right? It's just that we're divided, and that's kind of like exactly. It's kind of trickles down in our community.
Who connects us then? We mentioned the church. I think the church is that one entity that could connect most black people.
No, I think it's us. Like, the church can put out whatever they want to put out, but if people are not gonna make themselves literally go somewhere and learn and start to connect with people, it don't matter who's doing anything. It's always gonna start with us. We have to be willing to take those next steps and work with each other, with other people, other communities, and do what it takes to build. But a lot of times, like she was saying, the opportunities are there, but then
Then there's the laws and stuff that are placed to make
Yeah.
us jump through hoops to get it, because I mean,
but then people don't want to do it.
right. So I mean, it's kind of like it's made harder. They'll give it us. It's kind of like when, like I don't want to put to because anyway, when the bank give us these grants, right, and then you have to jump through hoops to get it. So only like small amount of people in our community qualify for it, but it's put out there. Oh, we just gave billions of dollars, right? And nothing is wrong with that, but at the same time, too, it's not making it very easy for the accessibility, and that's how things are. There's always this clouded barrier that you have to jump through. Then when you get there, there's the next step you got to take, and you're not going to get all the money, but you know what? We'll give you some of it. But then on paper you'll get this amount. So it's all these things, and then on top of that too is the financial education that we don't know. Number one is the tax loopholes and all that stuff that we just don't have. They don't teach us. We don't see it. We don't see it in our households. We don't see it in our schools, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're around a business, if you grow up being around a business owner, you can't tell me that Donald Trump's kids don't know a lot of the tax loopholes in business, right? And some of them are very, very simple, but it's just that that information is not given freely.
Yep.
Right, so it's always a barrier to entry, and that's how the system is built. Now, I'll go even a little bit deeper, and then one of the things I always say is that, and when you read *The Wealth of Nations* by Adam Smith and capitalism, you realize it's a really good system. I mean, it's not a bad system at all. It's just that the people who police it is the bad people, right? The main thing about you'll find about capitalism is that there has to be three different categories of people in any economy, right? Is the laborers, you have to have the landowners, and then you have to have the capitalists or the entrepreneurs, the business owners. The landowners are the ones who always benefit from both categories because the laborers need land or the landowners to find rentals for them to live because they're making enough money, but they're not making enough money to own yet, right? So they need to rent for land for a place to live. The entrepreneurs or capitalists, they cultivate the land, and that's been ever since we were farming, right? So they needed land to cultivate, to grow crops, or they'll build a factory to manufacture stuff. They need the land. So the landowners in the middle, they are always the ones who are going to benefit, and that's why I'm so passionate about real estate, especially owning in our community, and that's why it's so litigious. Is that number one? If all else fails, and there's no currency was just to actually go down to zero. The thing that we will have that will actually help us in terms of bartering and is the land and the real estate we own, right? So that's why for me real estate is so important. But not only that, it shows that number one, the three categories have been already allocated, and it's forced, right? It's not something that because the people who police it, they're not going to put themselves at a disadvantage, right? The people who police it are never going to put themselves and the people who look like them and the people who control it at a disadvantage to become laborers. They're going to create opportunities or create these give the information of how you can become a landowner and how you can actually become an entrepreneur or a capitalist. So this is where and that's why I said the nepotism is so important. And so, like you'll find that we are always kind of like behind in that because number one, it's just how the system is set up.
So the question is, by God Radio 1, good question. Are they blocking us or are we blocking ourselves?
I mean, that's a question that's always asked, man. I'm like, this is what I'll say.
2024.
Yeah.
We know in 1924 and
right.
1824,
but
definitely was being blocked.
But I'm not speaking about, I'm not being, I'm not dating things because the capitalism is still here, right? It's not going away. Unless we change the system, then we can say, hey, you know what? Well, you know what? We blocking ourselves. But I think it's a little bit of both.
But who can stop?
Right.
But ultimately, who can stop us from getting into an industry that, one, we know will be here in the future, and then two, we can own or run or control? Who can stop us from doing that? If you have a good portion of black people get into that,
right?
Is there a group of people that will stop us?
Well, nobody can. But I'll tell you this. Let me give you a big example. It's like number one, you look at the Ivy League colleges, right? The black population is the lowest on the Ivy League in Ivy League schools, right? And now, is anybody stopping them? People who want to go to college from getting into Ivy League schools? What's stopping them?
Well, we could create our own Ivy League,
right? So I mean, we have HBCUs and we underfunded. So I mean, when we say we want to create our own, are we really being realistic, right? So I mean, creating your own Ivy League school now means that you have to find the right educators. You have to get the funding from the government, all that stuff. Now, that's something that we already have.
Okay, but the thing about Ivy League schools right now, and it's not trying to disregard the quality of the education, but with how technology is, we can get almost anything at our fingertips.
Right,
so
the information.
But
access to it is still...
access and the connections you make, to me, that's the most important thing with the Ivy League school. And why can't we create that with our own schools?
Right.
That's why I feel like we got these billionaires who have all this money and they have the opportunity to potentially start these types of schools and teach these things. But I feel like we don't really see them doing it. You know,
But
I
that's the
see some
thing.
people give some money, some
So-
people go to school. But
Right. So let
are we
me.
gonna
So
band together and start.
so
our
why do we? So
HBC,
this is the question I
and
always
really
ask.
go and teach these things.
Sorry.
Go
So
ahead.
this is the question I always ask. Why do we think? Okay. So why do we expect people who are our black billionaires to do the things that we already paying our government to do? Right. So I mean,
Because it starts with us.
so let me give you an example. Right. It starts as when I mentioned the Ivy League schools. The reason why I mentioned it is because you'll find that you have the top 3 big tech companies, right? And wherever the owner,
Was it Google,
Amazon, and then you have Facebook,
Okay.
right? Wherever that owner went to school, you find the majority of the employees come from that school, right? So one of the things we're not asking the right questions is like, what do we own? Because and one of the things that I look at is this, and I always look at it from an economic standpoint, is this. There's a bank called SoftBank from China. They say they own like about 50% of Silicon Valley, and it's growing because they're giving all the startup funding. If you want to start a funding in the past 10 years, SoftBank, and that bank is it's in China. They don't talk about it because we don't bank with it. You know what I'm saying? That's a wealthy bank for billionaires. But if they want money, it's the easiest amount of money. You're talking about billions of dollars they'll give for you to start an idea, right? They own the majority of Facebook, Amazon, because they invested in these companies in the startup stages. The reason why I mention that is because, number one, you'll find that they are giving opportunities to their own, which is now you have the majority of employees are coming from that originating. So like a company like Samsung, from what I think is it North Korea? I think it's North Korea, right?
Sure.
Okay, North Korea is where
We'll go with North Korea.
Okay, well, one of the North or South Korea, right? But I remember I worked for Samsung, and most of the employees, I would say 80% of the employees were from that origin, right? That's where we got to ask ourselves: what companies do we own that are giving us the opportunity? Because we have some Ivy League students who are going to these Ivy League colleges, but still not getting the opportunities.
Well,
But that's what I was saying too, though. You know, when I say we have these billionaires, you just mentioned how the owner of Facebook and stuff like that hires people that went to his same school. We need to start doing that type
the
of stuff as
same
well.
thing.
That's my whole point.
Yeah.
You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like we have to bring
And-
our people up the same way they did.
Right.
And
So
if we
this-
don't already have it, create it.
So what I'm trying to say
well,
is,
hold on. We got a comment here. You want to read that, Clinton?
they have a greater part of the blocking. We can only do what we know. We don't have lawyers to interpret the law, number one, and once we know the laws, we can work around them, right? So I mean, and this is what all I'm trying to say. Starts off at a certain level. Like we like to talk big in our community because number one, we think that it's so like, okay, straight. It's linear, but it's not, right? And we gotta understand that even though it's linear, we still have to go through these barriers, right? Number one is this. I mentioned school because, number one, the Ivy League school teaches or prepares a lot of these students. So if you go to, say, one of the tech schools, one of the big tech schools, say, what do you call that?
MIT or something?
Yeah, MIT. You go to MIT, you're guaranteed most likely. Because, I mean, have you ever watched a graduation from these? And all of them already have jobs or internship when at their graduation day. So they don't interview, okay, well, they don't celebrate. They celebrate, oh, got a job. I'll be working for this company. I'll be working for that company. The companies actually go to those schools before these kids graduate and hire them, give them contracts on their senior year.
But what I'm saying
now,
is
and the reason why I'm saying this is because, number one, we think that, okay, without going through that, right, the billionaire should just hire us because, no, it's not. So this is where I'm trying to say the barrier to entry comes from the access to the information.
Okay, but what what Dion is saying is for those who get those opportunities, who are making high earnings, high income, and can make a difference.
Right. So how is that going to
go back into the community, create more? And I'm not
right. So explain.
And it may not
explain
take
that. It sounds good.
5 years. It may take 30 years.
Yeah. So it sounds good, but a billionaire who has a company does not have the 30 years of time, right, to actually invest unless they're doing philanthropic endeavors.
Well,
right?
I put
So
it like-
they run a business.
I put it
right?
like
so,
this.
So this is what I'm trying to say.
Rockefeller-
So this is what I'm trying to say. It's like
Rockefeller,
right.
I'm trying to figure out
Carnegie.
what he's trying to say.
Right.
They spent
So-
they
own the
made the
business.
first half of their working career. They made billions of dollars.
Right. That's
The,
Rockefeller, and that's
the second
Carnegie.
half of their life, they spent their time giving
right.
it away.
But
because they understood
we
the
don't
importance.
we don't have name a someone in our community that represents Rockefeller or Carnegie. Name one.
Who's a billionaire?
No, not who's a billionaire. We're talking about wealthy, not billionaires. We're talking about a wealthy family.
Well, you got Robert Smith, and I forget the other brother.
He only
name.
just
Tyler
became a
Perry's
billionaire in
otherwhere. You got the Tyler
2000
Perrys, the
in
Oprahs.
the last 10 years, right? so this is where I'm trying to say we have wealth that has laid a foundation, and we have the Rockefellers, we have the Waltons, we're talking about close to 3 or 4 generations of wealth.
But what I'm saying
Right,
is,
so I mean, I
what
know
I'm saying
we
is-
got to start somewhere.
we have
A billion's
Right.
not
Right.
wealthy?
No,
Wasn't
no,
a
no,
billion not-
no. It's not. It's not really in terms
That's
of
not
well, it's
what.
not what it used to be.
No,
it's
it's
still
not
a lot
terms,
of money.
when we're when we're
Billion's
talking
not
what
wealthy.
we're talking about when we're
well, it's still
talking
wealthy.
when we're talking about what we
guess
want to
not.
do and then what we want to impact, build a school and a college, it's not, and that's what we got to understand. It's not. You know what I'm saying? So when we look at the impact that you really can make,
Well, it doesn't have to start off being huge.
and
but what I'm saying is, you
and
got to
look,
start somewhere.
and they have, and we might not see that they have, but they have given like, and I'm not saying it's that they haven't given enough. It's just that what our expectations, right, doesn't measure up to what the outcomes are, right? So I mean,
That's what a change needs to be, though.
right?
That's
So I
what we're
mean,
saying.
what we're saying is that maybe they should give more, right?
Not necessarily give, but also
Because
teach.
I'm not saying, I would never say they're not giving, because
It's
I'm
Robert
gonna be
Smith-
honest. It would be very helpful if you had a group of billionaires dedicate their life giving their helping the black community grow.
And they are. That's what I'm trying to say. They are. You know, it's and the thing about it is that is what our expectations, right? So our expectations are.
And what are they doing?
So Robert Smith paid off
Morehouse.
right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money
No, it is.
for a billionaire,
Yeah.
right? So what can he do?
That's one-
Give me an
that's
example.
awesome.
What else can he do?
That's one
Teach
class.
us how he made his billions
So-
to be able to give away.
so-
Create a school. or,
Show me how
create
you
a
made
school.
that much.
Yeah.
So you see what I'm saying?
Teach
It's
me how
like
to get to that point
our-
so I can
so
turn
we
around.
can run
so-
this. So we could
Yes.
run this industry.
So y'all want Robert Smith, right?
Yes, him.
Okay, so give me an example of a billionaire who's doing that right now.
That's the whole point.
No, I'm asking. No, any billionaire. Just give me an example of one billionaire who's doing that.
What?
No,
Who's
I'm asking.
giving back?
One billionaire. It doesn't have to be black, white. Just give me an
I just
example.
named
Exactly
3.
what you want Robert Smith to do, which is go build a school,
Rocke-
build a college. Give me an example of
Heard
one
of a college called Carnegie Mellon?
Yeah.
Carnegie
Yeah,
Mellon.
LeBron
Yeah.
James built the school, if I remember correctly.
Okay,
Calm
so,
down, Clinton.
so this is where the disconnect is, right? It's because and I'm not saying we can't do it. I'm saying is that we can't do it by ourselves, right? There is an influx of we need a huge influx of capital that we don't have.
We can't do it by ourselves.
Right.
Who do you have to partner with?
Number one, the federal government, right, already funds billions of dollars in our education system
To which one?
into our community, right?
Into the local schools?
Local schools.
Okay, now
right.
in these local schools, what are we learning that will help us sustain
And
a career that will last
and that's
us a
what
long
I'm
time?
saying. That's where I'm saying the disconnect is. You see, I started off by asking about the college, right? The Ivy League colleges, the kids that go through that system,
Right.
right, end up working for these companies that actually of kids who went through that system,
Right.
right? We just have to actually do the same thing ourselves, and it has
That's
to
what we're
start.
saying.
No, but it has to start by us keeping the government and our policies accountable. Because all we're doing is this. All you're asking, and these billionaires know they have already projected. Don't keep in mind they're already seeing what's happening. But if you're asking a billionaire to just come and put money into a community that they know it's not going to churn it around. It's like you're just jumping money into a deeper
But
hole.
we're not
right?
just talking about money.
Right.
We're
So
talking about
what?
education too.
That's what I'm saying. It
don't cost a penny to
that's
somebody
that.
to go
That's
on
not how it
phone
works.
and go live. You can
And
do a master
unfortunately,
class. You can
that
go
is
on YouTube.
not how it
you
works.
can post videos. That's how it can work. That's the whole point.
But name it. That's you go. You got to give examples when you want to say it can't work. Don't say that
No,
this
you
is how
saying
it
it
works.
can't work. I'm telling you
but
it can work.
I'm giving you all examples. I'm giving you all examples. The Ivy League school system
Right.
takes kids from these private schools
Right.
and puts them in positions.
Right.
Right. We need to start doing that at that level first.
That's
what we're saying.
right.
That's what we're saying.
Right. So, and the thing about it is the money that it takes to do that is not. We don't. It's kind of like you can't expect a billionaire to do it, and that's the problem.
We're not
That's what-
expecting one billionaire.
No, we don't have enough
expecting
billionaires in
a
our
lot of
community
them
to do
to-
that.
Exactly.
Like, and that's the problem that I'm trying to tell you. We only just became billionaires. We only just
Right.
became billionaires.
Right.
Go ahead.
I want to be a special guest for this one.
Let's go. Let's go.
The philosophy is simply this. We have what we call the lone wolf mentality, that we go to big colleges and we will say, I'm going to pay off everybody's student loan and things of that nature.
Uh-huh.
What if we took everybody that had the capacity to do that and they pulled their money together and they leveraged their buying power to leverage the government, the industries all around? See, when you
Right.
have people in
Now-
the black
now we
community,
talking.
in
Right.
the black community, we spend a lot of time being lone wolves.
Right.
And look at me, and this is what I did. But once we come together, we are stronger together, and we have more buying power and more sustainability. And
Right.
so it's not just one billionaire, but if you put key people together, if you take your top 10 income earners of the United States, and they decided that they were going to just use 10% every year of their gross, not their gross, but their growth.
And that's a lot to ask.
The-
That is a lot to
No,
ask.
no, listen.
Yeah. That's a lot to ask.
No, but just listen. 10% of their growth. I didn't say of their gross. I said of their growth. That's totally different. That means they still grew 90 more percent.
Right.
They're only going to take 10%, and put it into funds and put it into a structure that literally becomes a power brokership. It then will control and help control government and laws and everything else, because there's buying power, and where there's buying power, then there's sustainability.
And they
Right.
probably could write that stuff off too. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, trust me.
will write it off.
Hey, trust
How
me.
about that?
And this is what I'll
That's
say.
what they
and this,
do,
And this is what
you
I'll
know
say
what I mean?
because Dr. T, you're right. I think yes, the money that I think we need to put is towards the infrastructure and hold our community and government accountable. That's where I think it will be more effective. Because number one, if we're just going to say, because there's so many people who have tried that already, to build schools, right? Or we're going to build a school, right? It has to be sustainable.
But
It has to
maybe
be
maybe
It don't have to be
But
a
maybe
school,
maybe
though.
we can
That's what I'm
maybe
saying.
we could try to adjust the curriculum where we are taking in trades that will benefit us in the future. So a lot of times what we're learning in school is not beneficial to us.
Right. So
Can I-
all,
let me-
all we need to do is we trying to reinvent a wheel that's already there, right? So all we need
No,
is
there's
But
been
it's not
things-
our wheel.
there's
though.
been things
That's
that have
their
already
car.
been
That's
working.
not our car. Our
But
car is
we
not
can't-
working like their car is working.
But that's the thing.
We need to build our own car.
You're fighting a system that's been put in place. That's what you're trying
The
to
same
do.
system that you say
Right.
doesn't work for us.
Right. It doesn't work for us.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is this: number one, we can't change it.
No,
we're not
gonna
strong.
change
We're
it.
not big enough to change
Well,
that system yet.
I'm saying within the system, we work within the parameters
No, we hold.
that could benefit
all
us.
I'm saying is what Dr. T. Let's go back to what Dr. T says. I'm saying we put that money towards holding the people accountable who can change it. Because the thing about it is this: that we trying to change an educational system that's been around for ages. Like we can't. Like we're not that big yet.
No.
Yeah,
What I'm saying is this. Guess what? You don't have to go to school to be educated. He make it seem like the only way we can learn is if we're in a college. These
No, I'm
people
not saying-
charge thousands of dollars, and they could do it for free, or
It
they can charge
sounds-
money
it
to do
sounds
master
great.
classes
Sounds great.
about how to invest, how to do this, whatever it
Right,
is.
and those things are available at the touch of our hands. You can
Exactly.
Google that. You can AI that,
But when-
ChatGPT.
but when you get a
No,
panel of
but what
on
I'm
my phone?
saying, and this is not even, but what I'm saying is this is the implementation of it that we do not have yet, right? Because we have so much educated and smart people in our community that just don't have the opportunity.
Well, we've
Right.
done it before.
Right.
We've
This is
done it.
2024.
It's been a long
Right.
time.
Right. So
But
this is 2024.
But we're not talking about
2024.
something,
Right.
What,
So
what
so,
we're talking about is not creating something so brand new that no one's ever seen it before. What
right.
we're,
But
what we're
what I'm
saying
saying,
is let's see what's been working for everybody else.
right.
Do
and
that
then
for
implement.
ourselves.
And what I'm saying is this exact same thing that Dr. T just said, where we find that communities, and that's all they're doing, is look, let me give you a big example. What bank do we own in our
Yes,
community?
LaShawn, we can do it.
Right. So
Thank
I
you.
mean, I believe we can do it. Just like Obama said, we can do it. Right. So I mean,
We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to duplicate the process.
right. And that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Like, name a bank.
Us
name,
too.
No, listen, but it's the way you all want to do it. That's like throwing it up in the air and be like, oh, we can
I'm not
just do
saying
this.
throwing it up in
You
the
are,
air.
look, so
Not at all.
it's real simple. Name a bank in our community that has actually loaned on real estate, that carries their portfolio on real estate. Name one black bank.
You said name a black bank.
Right.
I think you said name a bank.
Name-
Name a black bank.
Name a black bank.
Okay. We discussed
so-
we don't own the financial industry.
Right.
Yeah.
See, that's
Where
the
you
thing.
going with
See,
it? I'm trying to
so
figure out
what
where
I'm
you're
going with this is this.
Okay.
How come other communities have been able to do it?
Because they own financial industries, or at least they can, or they coming from countries where they have their own financial
Right.
industry and they can get the funding.
Right. So that's now we talking. Now we're talking, and this is where I'm trying to get at. Right. So they're leveraging their country's economic system. Right.
yeah,
And their relationships with each
Yeah.
other.
Okay. So what economic system do we have in our community to leverage?
what we're saying is
No. I'm asking. No. What we saying? What economic system do we have in our community to leverage? You see, and that's the problem with us. It's like I think, no, is a system. Come up with a system and duplicate it. That's all. What economic system that represents our community do we have to leverage? Because we still got to revert back to other communities.
I think we all agree on that.
Right. So that's where I'm trying to say. You can have all these bright ideas. You can have all
We're
these
saying the
wonderful.
same
It sounds
thing.
great, but you know what I'm saying. But you know what? We can do it, and that's more political speech than anything else.
can do
right? And I believe that we can do it, but we need to find a system that works. Right. And the thing about it, and I'll give you a solution. Right. Because I'm not going to just say, okay, well, yeah.
You got the answer.
No,
Let's hear it.
I have no answers. Right.
got the
I'm
solution.
just giving an idea. Right. So number one.
Let's go.
We have an economic system that's Africa,
Right.
right?
Right.
We have been since the educational system has taught us that that's an inferior place,
Right.
right? Where if you really look at the African economic system,
Right.
they have caught on to what China did, to what Russia did,
Uh-huh.
and now they're actually pushing. They're actually saying, okay, we own our own resources because it's a whole new generation, 2024.
Right.
Right? That generation has now gone to Africa and said, hey, you know what? We own the resources. Just like the guy was saying on the video, right? He was saying, what can make our women proud of what we
Right.
It's right there in
In
Africa. We see the problem is this: we have adopted an European way of thinking about ourselves.
Can I
Go ahead.
share this? And I just think that you all have to, when we talk about the power and the structure of money, we have to realize that the Rockefellers made most of their money through criminal activity because they were breaking the law, making money, selling alcohol and things of that nature.
Right.
And so they got to the point where they had enough wealth in to make alcohol legal. And
Right.
so again, a lot of the systems that
And
we
power.
see, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
So a lot of systems we see is because again they pull their money together. Our biggest issue, it doesn't matter what economic system we use, our biggest issue is that we don't trust each other and that we feel like we have to do it all on our own.
Right.
So it's a us for and no more mentality.
Right.
Until we shift that overall, we're going
Right.
to continue to go round and round. And the key thing is simply this: a white people's water is always colder.
Right.
Their ice is always
Right.
thing. And it's because of the fact that that's been the mentality we've had for so many years. And until we get past that
Right.
and be willing to live 3 families deep in a house, so that in 2 to 3 years we'll all have a house. You know,
Right.
until we're willing to do that type of work, we're going to still do this over and over again.
And you know what we hear?
So
you know
say
what
the
we
same
hear when
thing.
we mention that? You know what we
Preach,
hear when we
brother.
mention that? Is,
What?
I ain't living with them.
Right.
I ain't
So
trying to do
it's
all
the
that.
same, and it's the same mentality we have when it comes to representing who we are. And what Dr. T is right saying, but when I look at it, that's micro. That's a micro level. When we look at a macro level, because keep in mind we're talking about trillions of dollars in spending power. We're not talking about billions here. We're talking about trillions now. That's richer than most countries.
Right. It would be the seven,
Right.
6, 7
so
richest.
so where that's what I'm trying to say. We don't have an economic system in place.
And he's saying we don't
Right.
have
So
an economic system
let me
because we
finish.
don't
Let me
have
finish
trust
though.
with
Let
one
me
another.
finish. No. It's not. That's micro. That's very micro. If we don't have, it's not like we don't have trust with each other.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yes,
so
it is,
yes,
sir.
we do have trust with each other, but at the same time too, that's a micro.
Like other groups do.
Okay, so when you look at a macro level now, the macro level is what which is missing, right? Our money. Look, and let me give you, and I'll tell you
we
what.
gotta do it real quick because we're
Okay,
already
so
a
let me
minute
finish
over.
though.
I don't
I'll
want
finish
Dr.
off with
T to
this.
get
I'll
mad
finish
at
off
us.
with this. I'll finish off with this. Number one, our money stays in our community. How long?
2 hours.
30, and that's not a trust thing.
36 minutes.
And that is not a trust thing. No, it's not. No, trillions of dollars. We don't trust each other. No, it's because there's a system in place that our banking, we don't have a banking system that's set up in here, and we can't even leverage another country because our money has to go back to the same system that said, okay, well, we are less than, right? So and we have to depend upon that system. So you have to think a little bit outside of the mic. I understand there's trust and all that stuff, but keep in mind there's a huge government system, there's a huge federal system, and then there's a huge banking system.
We all agree with that.
Right, but we don't, and we have not even like, and the thing about it is that a lot of the other communities have taken advantage of it.
But
And that's how they were able to break through. Look, keep in mind, Chinatown was built based upon what?
based on their deciding that they were going to build that.
No, but they just keep in mind they came from another country with.
Yeah, but also
Right.
always remember this, and the reason why I say this about trust is because we'll have a corner store that's a market, and we'll go past that corner store and go to a brand store because we will think that it's better than the corner store, or they don't have what I want. The reason why we're saying that it only stays in our community 30 minutes is because we do not literally patronize majority of our own businesses, and so the businesses go out of business. And because there's nobody patronizing them, if you look at the Latino community, theirs go, I think, 9 times. Why? Because they build businesses and they will shop at their own businesses.
But they also store it in their own banks.
Well, the reality is, if you look at the Mexican population, they're not all storing them in Mexican banks.
I get it, but they
You
have
know
a
what I'm
bank,
saying?
at
But the
least.
reality is where their wealth is coming from is they're recycling their money within their community, so they're creating an economic system.
Right,
there.
and their economic system, I'll end with this, is leveraged in Mexico. Let's get that clear. They have a huge economic system that's leveraged through Mexico. So
I
their
think a
money
lot of
goes
things
through
with-
Mexico and comes back here.
A lot. What the reason why what he's saying with the trust with us too is like, with us, we for one, we always want to go with the status quo. So what's the hottest brand? So we'll go to the newest steakhouse versus the mom and pop shop down the street, and that's what he means by how we don't put money back into our community.
Okay, so say, for instance, we do that. Okay, so we do
do
that.
that.
We do that. Like here, we all do that, right? I do it. I do it intentionally. I go out of my way to do it, right? I still don't see me making a dent, and I still don't see us making a real dent. Why? We'll make a dent
But
for the people, the individual businesses, right? But we're not going to make a dent in the community because those businesses need to fund the schools. The schools need to actually have better programs in there that takes billions of dollars. And the money from the education from those schools need to fund the colleges. That's what I'm trying to say. You see, the problem is not just supporting Black businesses. It's a bigger problem. It's a macro level problem. And what we need to do is start holding our legislators accountable because we pay the same amount of taxes. The majority of the taxes are paid by the working class. And once we start understanding that and the power we have,
You don't think we've tried to hold the legislators accountable?
I'm not saying we're trying, but I mean, we can invest more in it.
Okay.
right? And highlight instead of being divided among the same topics, right? Because I mean, we the thing about it is that our taxes, the tax revenue, is supposed to be helping us as the same as any other community.
Well, I would like to continue this conversation. we're already 5 minutes over.
We got
I
deep
love it,
today.
man. I love
Yeah.
it.
I think when it comes down to it, though, I think all of us in this room want what's in the best interest for the black community, and I think we all want to see us thrive. It hurts me when I know that other groups are doing it, and I think that's great. But then I see us who have the ability to do it, even with the systems that prevented us, because we've still made it through the systems to where we're at today. But just to see how, even if you may look at it in a micro level, the fact that our money stays within our community 30 minutes, when other groups, days, weeks, where it circulates, and ours don't circulate. It's got to start somewhere, and it's got to start in different spots everywhere. And one of them just could be supporting Amigos, which is a small business restaurant in someone's house, or whatever. But I have to say that before
I
we go.
would say this: I would love to see our celebrities and our millionaires start having a bigger voice in our community.
He said that.
Not invest in bigger voice in our community on these same issues.
Well, they
'Cause
will.
when they become millionaires, they become very quiet.
Well, they will when their constituents or the people that they're entertaining are asking for it and requiring it and doing it ourselves. Then they will do it.
Okay, we're just going around in circles, man.
All right. So you
I love
watched
everybody.
another episode of Let's Talk About It. We're going to continue this conversation later on. We'll probably continue it on the parking lot for another 30 minutes.
Yeah,
But until then, we'll be out. We'll see you guys same time, same place.
Absolutely.
Until then, peace.
Peace.
We
Thanks,
out.
everybody.